It's such a busy time of the year. It's time for things to start coming in out of the garden, and then we have to get those processed and preserved, or else our time spent in the garden is wasted. So for me, I feel like I am just knee deep in peppers right now. And before peppers, it was green beans. And, after peppers, it'll be something else. We talk about, our desire to live a slower life, living out here in the country and growing our own food and just all of the things that we do. But in reality, there's nothing slow about the summer for a homemaker who also has a garden and tries to put up food for the winter out of the garden. My daughter and I had this conversation this past week, and we just were talking about how extremely busy the summer is. The summer, a lot of people think the summer is a slower time. They talk about the slow summers, and, with the garden, there's nothing slow about our summer, and especially not the month of June. Here where we live, the month of June is like we're just slammed with produce and with things that we have to do in the garden. So I know for some people that probably comes a little bit later in the year, but for us it's definitely June, and we are just really, really busy. So, like I said, now I've been working on these peppers, and my mom has helped some with cutting up the peppers so that we can get those in the freezer. But before this, it was green beans. So the very beginning of the month, the green beans started coming in, and they were ready to pick. So we had one bed of green beans in our raised bed garden. It has 2 rows, and we picked those 4 different times, and they were about 4 days apart. So for like 2 weeks, all I did was green beans, and I ended up canning around 70 quarts of green beans out of that one little row. And as soon as the green beans were done, it was time to dig the potatoes. So that was the next thing that we started with. So that's how it goes at this time of the year. One thing gets done and another thing needs to be done. And so we are constantly either picking, planting, or preserving over and over and over again. Week after week, it's something new. And even though it really is a good thing, it's something that makes us happy, it's just a lot of work, and it's hard work. Our row garden, where our potatoes are planted, is something that we do with our kids. Our grown kids share this garden with us. So whenever we work out here, we always try to plan it on a day that they can be here so that they can help harvest, or they can help plant, or whatever it is that we're doing that needs to be done. And our son is a fireman, so he, doesn't work regular hours. So we always have to plan it on a day that he is off of work. And so they're here today, and they're helping with the potato harvest. And as soon as we get these potatoes harvested, we're going to go right around the other side of that corn that's behind these potatoes, and we're going to plant sweet potatoes. So sweet potatoes will be our fall crop. These other potatoes were our spring crop. So we ended up with about 250 pounds of potatoes. But like I said, we share these with them, and so these are all ours. They have already taken theirs. And now we're going to go ahead and we're going to get started planting the sweet potatoes, and these are the slips that we're going to be using. And if you don't know what a potato slip is, a sweet potato slip, they grow out of the potatoes, just like this right here. These are some that I have sitting in my kitchen, and they're growing slips. And you just pull those right off. You can stick them in the water, and they'll make roots, and then you can plant them. And we have even planted them before straight off of the potatoes with no roots, and that works too. Sweet potatoes are really easy to grow, and you can keep your own slips from potatoes that you already have, and then you can plant them. And so, like I said, here we plant them this time of the year, June, and then we'll harvest them a little later before before it freezes. And I don't know if you can tell how dry this dirt is, but we have not had rain in weeks. And so it feels like we're planting them in like dust almost. It's just so dry. So that means that we're going to have to water these potatoes. We have to water them as soon as we get them planted, and then we're going to have to water them every day until we get rain. So there it is, just more work that has to be done. Not only do you have to plant them, but then you have to water them and try to keep them alive in this super dry weather that we have going on here. And since we're out here in the garden and it's getting close to time to harvest the corn, my husband decided to go ahead and pick a few ears of corn and see how soon it would be ready. So the only way to really know is to pick it and then see, if the ears are full or if they're not. And so that's what he did. He just picked a few ears from different random places in the garden, and now he's cleaning it, and we're going to actually eat these tonight because they are pretty close to being ready. And so we decided that we will go ahead and plan to pick the corn next weekend. So far, all of our weekends are filled up with garden work. And so like I said, we'll pick a day that our older son can be here also to help with all that. And our younger ones, they're here all the time, so they'll be able to help too. At this time of the year, I feel like I spend more time in the garden sometimes than I do in the kitchen. But then once all of the stuff comes in, then I spend so much time in the kitchen working on that it's just really hard to get the other things done that I should be doing, the things that I normally do as the keeper of my home. A lot of it gets just diverted to putting up all of the vegetables that are coming in out of the garden. It's like you have to do it when it's time to do it, and it's just not something that you can put off. And notice how pretty our corn looks right now. So walking through the garden, we're noticing that the garlic looks like it is just about ready to be picked. And you can tell that because the lower leaves are turning yellow and brown. And then we've been picking a few onions along. So you'll notice that our onion bed, it is kind of sparse in some places because we've been picking those as they get ready. When the tops of the onions lean over to the side like this, that means they're ready to get picked. And so I just come out every day and check them out. I look at the onions and I pick the ones that are ready. And then eventually they'll all get so soft that they'll just go, and we'll pick all the rest of them. But right now it's a daily task to come out and check the onions and pick the ones that are ready. A couple of years ago, we left our onions and our garlic in the ground just a little bit too long, and it made them rot after we picked them. Like, they didn't last good at all. So we're trying to be really careful this year and make sure that we pick it. Our white onions got ready earlier than our red onions too, and we planted them at the exact same time. So I don't know if that is a trait with the different kinds or not, but that is something that we noticed. And you can see I do still do laundry. There it is hanging out on the line. The work clothes always have to get tended to, but sometimes I feel like, I just don't even have time to do it all. These purple onions are so pretty. And here is what we did with our garlic and our onions after we picked it. So you have to lay these out and let them cure, and they just, it just gets them hardened up and ready to be stored. The same thing with the potatoes. That's why the potatoes were out on the rack that you saw them on. But this rack right here, we don't know what it is. My husband got it from a store that was throwing it away. They were taking it out to put it in their dumpster, and he asked him if he could have it. And it's really kind of neat because it's on rollers. The only thing about it is that things are slanted, but it works well. And then the overflow is over here on this little round wire rack that I got from a garage sale. I'm always looking for things that will work for produce because we always have so much of it, and at the same time we have to pull out some shelves and stuff to put it on, and it really needs to be on something that's wire like this so that it can get the airflow through it. So we have some onions on that one and the garlic on the other one, and those things are curing. It seems like things should be easy, but they're never quite as easy as we expect them to be. And you know, I told you that we were planning to pick our corn the next weekend. Well, the night before we were going to pick corn the next day, a huge storm came through, and we had a whole lot of wind, we had a whole lot of rain, and we also had hail. And so it really just, it kind of destroyed the corn and a few other things in the garden. So that was kind of disappointing, but we still, you know, we didn't give up, and we are still going to harvest the corn. See, if you remember, I told you to notice how pretty it was a while back in that other clip when we were picking the potatoes, and this is what it looks like today after the storm last night. And it didn't damage the actual ears of corn, but there's just, it's a lot harder to pick it like this because you've actually got to go in there and pick it up off the ground and get the corn. So it's just going to be a lot harder and take a lot more time to get it picked. But we do have help, and so that is always nice to have help when you're doing something like this. See, some of it is just laying completely flat, and then some of it is still standing, but it's kind of crooked and all like that. It was just, you know, it's one of those things when you have a garden, and it can be really upsetting when you have something like that happen. But we're just thankful that we didn't lose it all in the storm. And then it got some of our tomatoes. These are our tomato plants, and look at that. Some of them broke off at the ground, and they were just loaded with tomatoes. And so that was really sad. And then some of them are leaning. We have to come back out here and get them all tied up. But yep, it got to the tomatoes too. And the peppers. We have some peppers that also were just broken off at the ground, just completely gone from the plant. And so those are a total loss. But it didn't get all of our pepper plants, so we were happy about that. My friend told me that when she makes stuffed bell peppers, she cuts her peppers in half, and then she lays them in her pan and puts her stuffing in them that way instead of like stuffing a whole pepper. So I decided to try that, and I'm doing these. I just decided to cut these peppers in half, and I'm going to freeze them this way. And then when I want to make stuffed bell peppers, I'm going to do them with her method and see how I like that. It sounded like a good idea to me. So we still did get a good bit of corn, even though, you know, we had the storm damage. And I do have a whole video showing you exactly how we process our corn. But basically we do it when we have a lot like this, which we have a whole lot. We do it outside, and we do the shucking, and then we do some, but we do the blanching outside too. and that makes it a lot easier. It goes a lot faster with this many people, and we don't have room in our kitchen for all this many people to be doing it. So it's very, it works a lot better to do it this way. And we just have these big pots. They're actually crawfish pots that we do the corn in, and that makes it a lot easier. So if you do a smaller batch, if you don't have a lot, you can easily do this inside. You don't have to do this whole method that we do outside, but if you have a lot, we find it easier to do it outside. And then of course when we're done blanching it, we bring it inside and we get ready to put it up, and all of the help leaves except for us. So it's just me and my husband that are working on this corn, getting this done. So sometimes we put up our corn as corn on the cob, and we do like it that way. It just takes up so much room in the freezer, and we don't usually have a whole lot of extra freezer space. So we typically cut it off the cob, and then we put it in quart bags and freeze it. So once you've blanched it outside, all you have to do is cut it off and put it in the bags. And we ended up with 900 ears of corn. Now, some of those were really small, some of them were really big, and every size in between. But that's how many ears of corn we processed inside, I should say, because plenty of corn got eaten on the outside before it ever came in. After they blanched it, they're always sampling the corn out there. Now, all these, I'm just going to put these peppers on this tray and stick them in the freezer and quick freeze them, and then I'll add them to a Ziploc bag. And then, like I said, I can take them out and I can use them to make the stuffed bell peppers the way my friend does it. Or if I need them to be smaller, I can always just cut them up smaller after I take them out of the freezer. So as I was finished editing this video, thinking that I was just about done, my husband showed up with tomatoes. He came in with a 5-gallon bucket full of tomatoes and another basket. And so we've been getting a few tomatoes here and there. You know, we've had enough to eat every week probably, but we've never had like the huge influx like we have now. So I thought that I was going to have a little bit of rest when I got these peppers finished, but there's no rest for the weary. And now I have all of these tomatoes that I'm going to have to start on tomorrow. So, like I said, I would like to know what you think. Do you think the summer is a slower time? Is it slower for you? Because it is not slower for me. It's really busy for me. It's just a lot of work that I do now, and then I get to enjoy the benefits of it during the winter when we have all of this food that's already put up. And so that's kind of when I get my break, is during the winter, because the summer, it's just not slow. It's very busy. And so yeah, let me know what you think about that. How is it for you? And let me know what the busiest month is for you for harvesting and preserving your food. For me, it's definitely June. And here, June is almost over, and this will still go into July because we're just starting to get the tomatoes, and we still have a ton of peppers. If you liked this video, please be sure and give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. And be sure and turn on the little bell so that you'll get notifications when I put out another video. And I really appreciate you being here, and I'll see you back again soon.